In Lancer, modern humans are the descendants of the survivors of an ancient anthropogenic cataclysm, a climate collapse, a population bottleneck, a dark age, a fall. This video will explore the first 7,500 years of Lancer's history, with a focus on Cradle, formerly known as Earth.
We turned the lights on. For the first time since the Dark Age, we had turned the lights on. We lifted our own veil. A pessimist would say that the only good thing about having the lights on was that we could see what we'd done.
Ancient humanity saw the climate collapse coming, and their solution was twofold. First, seed the stars with humanity, preserving the species off-world. And so, in Union's earliest records, are the 10. The 10 were generation ships. We only know the names of a few: Apollo, Ayet, and Armstrong, as well as some that didn't begin with A, like Rizla and Yggdrasil. The Apollo and the Armstrong were named after NASA's first moon landings, while Ayet is the plural of the verses of the Quran, and Rizla is a genre of medieval Arabic literature focusing on journeys and travel. Yggdrasil is the Norse world tree, but it's unknown if it follows a pattern with other unnamed ships. These and the other unnamed 5 form the first of humanity's galactic presence in anticipation of the fall, and their descendants persist to the modern day.
That was the start of the Re-Enlightenment. The global population was a few 100,000 people. We thought we'd crawled up out of the same evolutionary muck as everything else. Scrapping, surviving. We had pride before we knew the truth.
Their second solution was more conventional. In their wisdom, ancient humanity preserved their knowledge inside vaults, called massifs. We already do this in real life, in preparation for our own climate collapse, with a prominent seed vault in Svalbard and smaller vaults throughout the world. The difference is thus: massifs also store knowledge, a library of Alexandria, a Rosetta Stone. With these vaults, whoever or whatever came next would have the accumulated wisdom of all of humanity. It's unclear where exactly these vaults were placed, but given what came next, it seems they were placed all over Earth, reflecting the uncertainty of where humanity would survive and civilization re-emerge. They contained crops, technology, history, mythology, anything that new humanity could use. Like Noah's Ark, a bastion of biodiversity with rising tides, the seed of the old world, intended to grow with new.
The Massif was old humanity's last gift to us, their children, their survivors. It was, to be flippant, just like any gift from an estranged parent. Difficult to accept, impossible to return, and terribly disruptive.
You might notice that neither of these solutions fixed the problem. It might have, if they tried. The first of the 10 launched 1,000 years before Union scholars agree that the climate collapse was inevitable. It wasn't a big event. It was a collection of 1,000 cuts, and although it's quite easy for that many wounds to get infected, you can still cover them with a cast so that they might heal. Instead, old humanity prepared their will, their tombstone, their next of kin, and so they went gentle into that good night.
Everything we had done to survive the long dark was suddenly thrown into stark, unforgiving context.
The launching of the Ayat, last of the 10, was the last act of old humanity, a final prayer for their species' survival. Afterwards, About 4,900 years before the founding of the Union came a dark age. Fire raged across the countryside. The skies faded from blue to apocalyptic yellow. Dust storms, plagues, and famine tore humanity limb from limb. A great dying, the end of the Anthropocene, the end of Earth. 500 years before the fall, the most prominent among the 10, a planet known as Caracas, founded by Apollo, the first ship launched and proved a concept for the other 9, cut contact with Earth in anticipation of the planet's fall and that false threat to the ruling class's bottom line. The history of Caracas continues in Earth's absence, but that is for another video. The other 9 ships would soon follow Caracas's lead, and each of the colonies cut contact with Earth in turn. Within the Sol system, colonies such as those on Mars and the Moon cried out for help from their home world, their Mother Earth. Frozen over with an ash-choked sky, the planet spun silently. Their motherland was dead.
We were not some young race banding together for the first time. We were not recent primitives come out of the equatorial jungles to plant our flag in the land left by retreating ice. We were the remainder. We were the echoes. We saw ourselves in the mirror for the first time and saw that we were small, sad things.
Eventually, the sky was blue again. The new sunshine ended the artificial ice age, and shorelines returned to their free-fall borders, lower, maybe, than they had been in centuries. Forests sprung up, grasses returned, animals had new food sources. The seas teemed with life once again. A new biosphere found balance. Inside of that biosphere was the last of humanity, less than 1 million individuals. They spread from ancestral Africa, following the retreating ice, repopulating the world in a parallel to our ancestors. From the jungles of equatorial Africa to Europe, Asia, North America, and South, populating the world once again. They entered a new Neolithic, one whose progress was augmented by the remains of the old world.
Look around you now, small thing. Wherever you are, set this book down and look, listen, smell. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you feel?
Eventually, civilization sprang up around the ruins of the past. Warlords laid claim to scrapyards. Nomads hunted and worshipped wandering machines. Riverbanks saw farmsteads grow into towns, grow into cities, into countries, into empires. They drew borders in the dirt, set prices on necessities, started fights over territory, and made rules to benefit the most powerful among them. Just like that, humanity had repeated the mistakes of the past.
We own this world once more. We spin wonders from clay, We are masters of sea and land and sky. We banish darkness with a flip of a switch, heat and cold with the turn of a dial, make war over ideas where once we fought over food on land.
The rediscovery of the massif faults changed everything and nothing. The knowledge enclosed was invaluable. Technology beyond their wildest dreams. Engineered crops to feed their people. Medicines to heal their illnesses. Weapons of war to kill their enemies. A devastating realization, only acknowledged after the dust settled. Despite the section of the account that directly preceded this, new humanity was not yet above petty war. Specifically, they call this period, with a sense of irony, the Little Wars. A world war larger than any the planet had seen in thousands and thousands of years, and yet entirely in character with those ancient wars. A fight over territory, technology, and prominence among the nations of the world. With their focus on survival, old humanity was united somewhat in purpose. An optimistic future that was seemingly shattered by their final gift.
Is a gentle place in the sun not enough? Do we have to claim more? Of course we do. We are only human. We are the ones who lived.
The war lasted 53 years. 53 years of global carnage, ravaging a population that had not yet returned to its first billion. When the dust settled, two things made themselves clear. Two great traumas suffered by new humanity. Firstly, that they were not the first humans. And secondly, that if they weren't careful, they could be the last. Humanity's homeworld, its cradle, had to be united under a single banner if they were to survive. And thus, Union was born, a world government that united the last of humanity. So they thought.
We stood on the shoulders of giants. We made kingdoms from their corpses, and now, after the ghosts of the massif, we know their knowledge, their mastery, did nothing to stop their end.
The next few centuries were lonely, a time of innovation and unification on Cradle, but without contact with the rest of humanity. Until finally, in Union year 1400, their communications technology had progressed to levels that allowed them to access old messages again, and they were immediately humbled and horrified by the sheer volume of distress messages from across the stars. But there were others. Evidence of survivors, or at least recent deaths.
There's one more place for us left to go, then, from these shoulders. Up.
They had to find out which it was. They had to find out if they were the last. This third great trauma was all they could bear, and Union could not rest until it was settled. Within the year, they had founded a space program, the USP. It was time to reclaim all that humanity had lost. It was time to go up. Hi, so thank you for watching this video. Project started like 5 or 6 weeks ago at the time of recording. When we were explaining Lancer lore to my friend Lumi. Faye had never interacted with Lancer before, but Faye had joined this game that I'm running. And Faye had no idea what was going on. And so I asked Faye if they wanted a PowerPoint, and then I made a PowerPoint, and then I decided this would actually make a pretty banger video. So I started making a video instead. Um,
I'd like to thank Halloumi for inspiring this project. I'd like to thank all the people on the Lantern Discord for answering my questions. Um, and stay tuned for the next part of this. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's going to cover up to Ra, maybe up through Ra. Just like a lot of the next part of Union. I know this isn't how Union history is traditionally sort of thought of. Um, but like it's not how the book um puts it up or anything. But it's my personal interpretation of the Union's eras, and yeah. So I'm very happy with this. I'm very happy it's finally come out. And stay tuned. Maybe drop a like and comment. You don't have to subscribe or anything. But just boosting the algorithm. I'm very poor. I would like views.